What's up, guys? I'm Lionel the Builder, back again with another episode. Today I have a very awesome, distinguished guest here, a fractional CTO, Guillermo. Round of applause. Woo! Thanks for joining me here, man. I'm really glad you're taking the time to come talk to me and our YouTube channel. This is Surviving Tech. We're a Discord of 400 people, tech influence people, so it means a lot for us to get to hear from a CTO as experienced as yourself. Can you please dive into what it means to be a fractional CTO and what's the type of stuff that you do on the day-to-day basis?
Sure. First, thank you for having me. Been watching. I really like what you're doing, man. So fractional CTO is somebody that but gives part of their time towards being a CTO for a company. So if you think about, a CTO at a startup, for instance, somebody who hasn't been a CTO before is just kind of taking their idea from an idea into something that is real. They might not have as much experience like building a team or building a product as somebody like me who has built one before, who's built teams in the past. So what I do is I say I will donate, not donate, why I keep saying that. I will contribute like 10 hours a week or sometimes 10 hours a month towards helping out and providing CTO services to that company, to that person maybe, so that they can help move their product forward. So that means doing things like, I do CTO and I do CISO, which is Chief Information Security Officer stuff. So as a CTO, I will do things like help to build out the product roadmap. I might do some hiring for a team. I help people, hire engineering positions, hire product positions. I might fill out vendor onboarding questionnaires. So like a lot of times if a vendor wants to use your product, like a big company wants to use your product, they'll ask you some questions about your security posture. So I'll fill out those and I will help you fill any gaps that you might have in your security. So things like that, just kind of hiring, answering technical questions and providing technical guidance. I might help with cloud architecture and help with a migration into AWS or into GCP.
True.
I might even get in and write some code. I do that occasionally as well.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So just getting in where you fit in on the tech side.
Yeah.
Basically wherever someone needs you. How do you feel about the current state of the job, the landscape, the tech world right now?
Yeah, I know it's tough out there. I experienced it myself when I left a job voluntarily a couple years ago and expected to get a job immediately afterwards. And this was kind of at the beginning of things going crazy, and I didn't get a job. And so what I did was, I started this business myself, right, as a fractional executive, and that's been helpful for me. But I've noticed that a lot of because the job market is so flooded right now, it's really difficult for people to find work, and it's all that more important for you to stand out. And standing out means really going to networking events, which is something I always tell people. You got to get in front of people, you got to talk to them, you learn about jobs that aren't posted, you learn about exactly what they're looking for. Just people have you fresh in their mind when they're thinking about a position, right? If you go out to a networking event. So yeah, it's tough, but you've got to be more creative as you can, to try to stand out among all the other people in the market. So work on your skills, try to get some certifications, but definitely get out there and get in front of people.
True. That's definitely something that I say every video, and I've experienced myself. Literally all my opportunities have came from someone's hand that I shook, or an intro through somewhere that they met me at a networking event. And, that can put you so much ahead of the line versus just an application in a stack of thousands. Do you feel like the future, how do you feel about the future of the market and where it's going? Will things get better in your perspective, or do you think we should all be rationing our funds for the famine?
No, I think things will get better. I do see more positions opening up. I've seen a lot of posts on LinkedIn about people hiring. So I think it's starting to turn around. I think though, in addition to that, people should find ways to, provide an alternative stream of income for themselves, right? Like the gig economy is a big deal. I think people should look into that. I do think fractional work is becoming really popular right now, especially for people around my age who have been around for quite a bit. Like they're like, I'm not going to do the full-time thing. I'm going to decide who I want to work for. And there is it's attractive to companies because they don't have to pay, health benefits and all that stuff. You just kind of pay for your time, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's getting better, but I do think people should think differently about their work and their relationship to work, and really start developing, for lack of a better word, like a brand for themselves, and figure out, all right, I do this and this and this, and they're all still me, and they help me, accomplish whatever goals I have for myself.
Right. And I agree, especially if you have that spark in you to work in tech. Just because you're not getting hired at a FANG company doesn't mean that it's over and you should go do construction or something like that. Being more creative, and finding a way, because like a lot of times I know people have heard, it's not that AI is going to take your job, but maybe somebody using AI will. Do you use AI in your work?
Yeah, I do. I use AI in a number of different ways. Like a lot of the tools that I use are AI empowered. I use AI for like an email, to write up something for work. I definitely use it. It helps me kind of think through things. I use it as a sounding board a lot of times. Like, hey, what do you think of this? It's a weird term to use, but like, how does this sound? Fix the grammar on this thing, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, it's like I could describe it as like auto correct on steroids.
Sure.
Like any professional email, like gets it done for you real quick.
Yep.
What about AI agents? Have you tapped into that world yet? Agents, engineers?
Not myself. No, I don't really deal with that stuff. And I haven't looked into it much. But I know, I know there are companies that are doing that stuff. It's just not something I'm into at the moment.
Yeah, it's very interesting. My homie was showing me somebody, like you can literally create an AI that controls your Chrome browser and goes and sorts all your emails, responds to any task that you feel like is just taking up your time. You can kind of like set up a bot for that. Is crazy to even imagine that, and what I would do with all that free time if I did have something doing that everywhere. Let's talk about 757 Color Coded. What inspired you to start that?
Yeah, so I've been here in Hampton Roads for about 20 years, and I'd been going to meetups and like local events for when I started becoming a developer, and I noticed that there just weren't that many people of color at these events. Right, I would go and I'd be, if not the only one, like one of a few, right, and so. I had spoken to a couple people here locally and said, hey, maybe we should do something about that. Maybe like you, like not me, you should start something and I'll help you with it. And no one did anything. And so I was like, well, I might as well just try to start something. So I started the meetup, and the first meeting that we had was full. We did it at what was called, at the time, the ODU Innovation Center. It's now something else completely. But yeah, ODU was really great supporting us there. So anyway, it grew from just like a meetup into now it's a nonprofit organization. And what we do is we provide, free training, we provide events, we provide just kind of like a space for people to hang out and talk about what's going on in their lives and in tech. So like this month, for instance, we're going to be doing a movie night. We're going to be watching Coded Bias. So come out if you're in the area. We're going to watch that, and there'll be food, of course. Next month, we're going to have a recruiting event. We're going to have like a career panel. We're going to do some like interview skits with people so that you can see, what you should and shouldn't be doing in interviews. We get to talk to some recruiters about things they're looking for when they're looking for jobs. So, the goal of the organization is really to help people improve their lives through like jobs in tech. And So we're just trying to do different things through that. And over the years, we've partnered with a few different organizations. We used to do some workshops at Slover, where we taught like computer skills. We helped to build a curriculum at Slover on computer skills. And I'm an AWS data hero, and AWS has provided free training for their cloud practitioner certification with us. Bunch of different things. So, we're just trying to do what we can to provide free resources to those in the community who want to get into tech.
Man, that's awesome to hear that, you've been going at it for that long too in that world and giving back to the community. That's, very similar with the digital builders. And I have that spark in me too, that wherever I'm at, I try and help my people who are interested in it as well, join. So that's awesome. And of course, with us both being change makers, I've been looking in a fan of 757 Color Coded, so it's good to hear the backstory there. What do you guys have any plans other than the 2 events that you have going for the rest of this year?
Yeah, and we'll be putting all that stuff on the calendar and meet up pretty soon. But we do like an annual cleanup in Norfolk where we we pick a street. That's actually like a couple streets. We clean those up, and then we get some barbecue at I can't remember the name of the place, but a really good barbecue spot in Norfolk. We're gonna have a couple of panel discussions where we're gonna bring in some folks. Every year we do like a woman of color in tech panel, and we talk about other things. I really want to make sure that we're not asking these women, what is it like to be a woman of color in tech? Because they are more than that. So I try to get their opinions on things that are happening in tech, right? So that's the focus of that panel. Then we're gonna have another panel discussion. We're gonna do some more presentations. James Doe, we're gonna try to get him back. He did some cool JavaScript training for some folks with that. So yeah, we got a lot planned for the year, and we're trying to go bigger and better, and make use of the stuff provided to us through the Changemaker residency, right? Get some more. We can use this space and to do some great things.
That's what's up. Getting back to the CTO stuff, what has been your biggest challenge this year that you faced?
Oh man, biggest challenge. I think it's saying no to people, right? I think I have around 5-6 clients right now, and they all take up different amounts of time, and they all require different things of me. But it's important for me to manage my own energy, right, and how I feel about the work that I'm doing and how it's being done. And so this year, I have said no to a client, and I'm ending relationship with the client because of a couple different things, and that's been hard, right? Because I need to make money, right? So I got to find a way to make up the money, and I've done that already. But it's just thinking about it in a way that where I'm kind of putting myself first, which I generally don't do. But I'm trying to focus more on making sure I'm okay, so I can actually do the work that I need to do for the other people that I support. That it's been a difficult decision to make.
So have you ran into the problem of too many yeses, and then which makes everybody lose because you're burnt out, in a sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Max capacity.
Absolutely.
Man, I've been reading this book called Exceptionalism by and it's basically being a minimalist with your time. And some things are have been blowing my mind that I've been coming across in this book. Your default should be no. It's crazy to me to even consider that. Starting with no matter what, and then leaving it up to that person to convince you otherwise.
Right.
Is whew.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, because I know for myself what I've done, especially with I'm trying to make money, right? That's kind of how I historically have looked at this business thing. How do I just make some money, and that ends up hurting me, right, and the business ultimately, because I start out with the yes, all right, how can I make this work even if it doesn't work for me, right? But if I start out with this no by default, it's all right, I know who I am, I know who I want to work with and what kind of work I want to do, so I'm just gonna be really picky about it, right?
True.
And so that's a good way to look at it. Start out with a no and be convinced. Yeah.
Yeah, he says some ideas in there, like oftentimes when you're first getting started out as a freelancer or like building your own company, you think that the best thing for you to do is collecting a bag of yeses. But then eventually at a certain time, you know, it's too much to handle and it ruins everything else, you know, unless you're of course it's scale and capacity and stuff. And the more careful we are with our yeses, the more powerful they all are. And in that way, less is more. Like, you know, even if you only had 3 things, these 3 things could scale crazy versus 10 things even. That's, you're too scattered with 10. You know? Yeah, I love that book. Isaiah put me onto it.
Okay.
Shout out to Isaiah Belford man. What is there is there anything that you can share that makes it a no for you now? Like what are some things that help you know, like, you know, I know you're just getting into that, but is there anything that you've learned that makes things a deal breaker for you?
Yeah. So it's something I've been thinking about and trying to work towards for a little bit. You know, one of the things they tell you when you go out on your own as a fractional executive is you need to find your niche, right? So I started out just taking work from everybody and started slowly, you know, just focusing on like a smaller niche, right? So I would, you know, at one point I was doing some like architecture work for somebody in oil, right? Which is, I know nothing about the oil industry, but I knew I needed to make money, so I took the job, right? But now it's like I want to work with, you know, startups or small businesses of a certain size who care about their people and who think about tech the way I think about it. There's a way that you're supposed to work. I don't want to say that. There's a way that there are best practices that we need to employ in developing software, right? Like DevOps best practices. So I want to work with people who care about those DevOps best practices. Things like, you know, building a team culture where that is inclusive, right? And, you know, and that's not DEI, that's just, you know, that works best for everybody, right? That's how a company can be the most effective. So that kind of thing. I will not work for somebody who is, who's doing work that I don't believe in, who's doing work that I think is harmful to the world or the country, or especially to, you know, people of color. And when I say people of color, I mean more broadly, like, you know, non-white people, right? You know, I want to work with people who are going to respect my time as well, right? If I get a hint from our initial conversation that you're just going to abuse my time, then that's a no for me.
True.
Right? So, yeah.
What are some of those DevOps best practices that, in your opinion?
Yeah. So there are, you know, there's a bunch, right? So from like a more technical point of view, there's things like, you know, you want to make sure that you have like a CI/CD pipeline for your code, and things are automated. You have automated tests. You have security in the pipeline, security checks in the pipeline. You have pull requests so that people are reviewing each other's work. And then there are metrics that you're supposed to, you know, there's like the 4 DevOps metrics. There's MTTR, which is mean time to recovery, which is how long does it take for you to recover from an issue, like from a failure, right? There's lead time, which is how long does it take for you to get from, you know, articulating the idea in like a ticket to actually getting it done. So you need to track that. There is change deployment frequency. So like how often are you developing? How often are you deploying changes? Right. Some companies they deploy, you know, once or twice a year. Some companies deploy hundreds of times a day. Right. And so you want to, you know, figure out how you can get towards that hundreds of times a day. And then as I'm talking, I'm blanking out on the 4th. Lead time, MTTR, change the defect rate, right? So like how often are you deploying bugs, right? And how can you fix that? So those are like the 4 key DevOps metrics. And then there's things, cultural things that I talked about, like, you know, building an inclusive culture, how you build your team around the product. You know, do you have a team that is kind of a cross-functional team where you have like your devs and your QAs and your PM all on one team? Or do you have a team of engineers, a team of QAs, a team of PMs, and they're like embedded into these different kind of smaller teams per project, right? So thinking about things like that. How do you think about hiring isn't ordinarily considered like a DevOps best practice, but like how you hire affects how you build your team, right? And so are you using structured interviews as you're interviewing for your positions? Are you trying to remove bias from the interview process so that, people who are, stay-at-home caregivers have the same opportunities to excel during the interview process as people who don't have anybody to take care of, right? So things like take-home exams can sometimes really favor people who aren't caretakers, right? Because the caretaker doesn't have time to do that necessarily, right? So how are you thinking about the interview process? A lot of stuff there. There's a State of DevOps report that gets published every year by Puppet Labs. I read it every year. You should check it out if you haven't.
All right, so I'm gonna definitely check that out. So have you ran into any CEOs or companies who want to skip those, like not have ticketing or a CI/CD pipeline, or like what are some of the things that people have gone against? Like I bet you have named there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, especially when people are getting started, they lean towards just getting things done quickly. Like we're not going to go through the
pull requests and stuff.
Yeah, like I'm just going to
push to main,
push it to production, right? And then we'll see what happens, right? So a lot of time that kind of stuff happens. I think a lot of times in startups too, the hiring process is just kind of, I know this person, I'm going to hire this person because I know him, right? Security always takes a backseat in the beginning, unless you're like a security focused company. I wouldn't say always, but most of the time when I run into it, it's like security is like an afterthought. Like, let's just get this thing working and then let's worry about securing people's data afterwards.
True.
So yeah, those are kind of, especially the security thing. I run into that a lot of times.
So it's like, because that can slow down progress in their eyes, as far as like, when is this feature going to be live?
Right. Yeah. Like people are focusing on shipping, right? And so they're like, well, that's going to slow us down. And it might slow you down in the beginning, for sure. It will slow you down, right? But it'll also save you money, right? Because if you get sued or if you get fined, then you're out of business potentially, right?
Yeah, I've been there through experience. The arguments of feeling rushed to get your team to progress and trying to explain like, we're building a house of cards here,
right?
Because of the speed that you guys want us to build this thing at.
So I always have to try to help people make the case for applying these practices, right? And it's thinking about things long term, but it's also about like, how do you articulate to a CEO whose concerns are getting things out quickly? How do you convince them that it's in their best interest to do these things? But also, how do you, like, you might have to compromise a bit, right? Like you say, all right, we'll do these things, and maybe we will do those other things later on. Like we'll focus on the CI/CD pipeline for right now. Maybe we won't fail the build if some of our security checks don't pass, but we will have some security checks in there, stuff like that. You gotta be a little bit flexible.
Yeah. So that's a big job of a CTO, is managing expectations and deciding what to compromise on and what not to compromise on, what to push back later, and being a communicator of it all.
Yeah.
Between the CEO and the dev team.
Yeah, and if it's a startup that has a board, you're talking to the board too, right? And you're explaining to them, because a lot of times like they're the ones who are actually like helping to make decisions, right? And so you have to convince them that what you're doing is the right thing to do as well. I've had to do that in the past where I've said I want to focus on kind of riding the ship in terms of these things, and this is how long it's going to take, and we'll maybe be able to work on 20% of our work will be on new feature development, 20% will be on something else, et cetera, et cetera. But I have to convince them that it's okay, right? And let, if there's a technical board member, I got to talk to them about the specifics and why I think this is the right idea. So yeah, it's a lot of communicating. It's a lot of convincing. It's a lot of fighting for your people as well, right?
How did you become a CTO? Like, I know you're experienced in the software world, but when did you get your first opportunity to step into that role?
So as in like official CTO, with the title and everything, I didn't actually have that until I went out on my own and became a fractional CTO. The highest title I've had before that was Senior Vice President of Engineering and Information Systems. So I was like an SVP. I functioned as a CTO. There was no technical person above me. And so I was in the board meetings. I was making the case to the CEO. But yeah, I didn't have the title. So when I got out, I'd already been doing that work, and I'd done it I was involved in some other companies where I was the highest ranking technical person. And so I'd done all that work. I didn't have the title necessarily, but I did the kind of work. And so when I went on my own and I was kind of packaging up my services, I said, this is what I do. This is what a CTO does. I do that stuff. And I got a client immediately. Like even before I left my job, I got a client and was helping them build out an app.
Wow. So that's what's up. So now, could you ever see yourself working for another company, or this is the plan till you retire?
Yeah.
This is the plan.
Ideally, I'd be doing this till I retire, ideally, right? But, I'm open to other things that might come across my plate. I have a family and I got kids that are, I have one in college already and I got two about to go to college. So I got to think about that. And if I can't scale this up to the point that I wanted to, then I might have to do something else, right? So, I have faith in myself and in God helping me to do what I need to do with this. But if it doesn't work out and God's like, hey, you got to take a job, then I'll take a job. You know what I mean? So,
True.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Man, well, thanks for spending some time with us here, man. It was a great interview. Is there anything you wanted to get into before we wrap up?
No, not that I can think of, man. Color coded February 22nd. That's a Saturday. So come out if you're in Hampton Roads. We're gonna watch some stuff and eat some food, and then look out for more about the March event. And yeah, thank you, man. And looking forward to seeing what you're doing and helping out in any way I can with the builder. So yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it here to the end, go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Links are in the description for 757 Color Coded, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.